Hey everybody, it's been almost 10 months since I had my hair transplant procedure done in Istanbul, Turkey. I was going to wait till a full year to do the update, but there was a post from Nick Trigili on Instagram that spurred me to action a little bit sooner. And this was that post that Nick made a couple weeks ago about the place I went to. Here we go.
Guys, please stop going to Now Hair Time in Turkey to get your hair surgery. Every single person that I follow that got their hair surgery done there, their hair is falling out. They do a great job of marketing. They got Greg Doucette, they got C-Bum, they got Ian, they got Hottie, they got UFC fighters. They tried to get me. They tried to pay me and pay for my surgery to go over there. No, everyone's hair is falling out. But if you guys want to use PEDs the right way, comment guide. I will send you my protocol guide in the DMs. Please stop going to this place. Stay in the USA. This is where the...
All right, so I want to show you C-Bums here because Chris Bumstead and his brother-in-law, Ian Valier, went to Now Hair Time a little over a month before I did. I believe they went in December of last year. I went in, I had the procedure done like first or second day of February. So this is Chris Bumstead's hair. Now, I don't think he was losing much hair in the first place. It was just starting to recede a little bit because he's only 29 now. He was still 28 when he had this done. So I'm not sure he really did it, Chris Bumstead, but look at that hair. Beautiful, beautiful hair. Certainly not falling out. My hair is not falling out. And I have no skin in this game. I did not get paid by Now Hair Time. I did not get the procedure for free. So I was out of pocket because I went with my wife to Istanbul. We were there. We stayed a couple extra days so that we could see the sights. We did their tour. We did all that. So we got the most expensive package possible. It was all out of pocket. I don't have enough of a social media following to barter the procedure getting for free. Certainly not to get paid by them in addition to that. So I didn't do it as a marketing thing. I'm not employed by them. And you can certainly research all types of hair transplant clinics in the USA or wherever you live in the world. Istanbul does seem to have this down to a science. I've heard people really come down on it saying, you know, they do an awful job. It's like their factories. They do a high volume of procedures over there. There's no doubt about that. The day I was there, I believe there were 5 or 6 other men getting their hair transplants done as well. They have a whole hospital floor that I believe that's theirs. They either own it or they lease it. And it's just rooms, various rooms on that floor where they do the procedures and everything like that. And another thing I heard that sort of knocking Now Hair Time and these other places in Istanbul is you're not getting an actual medical doctor doing the procedure. You're getting technicians. That is true. But I don't think the hair grafting procedure is so complicated. It's not like open heart surgery. It's not like brain surgery, gastric surgery, life and death stuff where you'd be very, very concerned if it wasn't a highly skilled and trained surgeon. I wouldn't want some bum that just learned how to do it last weekend in maybe in a mail order course or an online course or YouTube didn't know. But I had a man and woman working on my head for the full day. They certainly seemed to know what they were doing. They'd probably done this hundreds of times before, so they're highly skilled and trained at what they do. I was never worried or felt unease or lack of confidence in the abilities of these people. Turkey is a very civilized country. It's not a third world country. I'm not telling you guys to go to Turkey necessarily or Istanbul. However, if money is an object, unless you just have money out the ass and you don't care how much it costs, the same procedure I had done in Istanbul and I paid $6,000, but that was because I did the tour and I stayed extra room nights at the hotel. I believe the most expensive procedure is around between $4,000 and $5,000. But median price, I think, is $3,000 to $4,000 for a hair transplant in Istanbul. United States, same procedure, $25,000 to $35,000. So do the math, guys. It's almost 10 times more expensive for us here in the USA. You do have to go to Turkey. That was one objection I had. But if you're going to save $20,000, do you think that's not worth taking a little extra trip? A gentleman at my gym, he was very curious because he saw me do it. He saw me come back to the gym. You do have to wait a month after the procedure to start training again. You're not supposed to sweat. And, you know, if anyone's hair is falling out, I just want to note it's probably because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. They tell you not to wear hats for the first couple of weeks. You're not supposed to have anything pressing the newly grafted area, which I had this area done in this. So you can see in the thumbnail for the video how much hair recession I had. My hairline was about up to here on the sides. Wasn't quite as high in the middle, but it was that typical male pattern baldness, hair loss that you see with guys where it's receding up around here. And here you can see the back. The back is not as successful, but they tell you that from the outset. The hair in the back of your head, the crown, I should say, the top of your head, it has a much lower success rate in terms of hair regrowth and the grafts being successful. So I did have hair grafted to those two areas. They told me straight up in the beginning that this was going to be the most successful result, and it is. I'm very, very happy with that. You can see it's my own hair. It's not quite as thick and luxurious as the hair up here, but you know, I'm 55 years old and my hair was really creeping up. So for me, it was well worth it. And I've said this before. I tried to cancel the whole thing because I just lost my job with muscular development. The company went out of business shortly after I booked this whole thing, the trip. And I hadn't paid for the procedure, so that wasn't a concern. But the tickets, the airline tickets to Istanbul for my wife and I were non-refundable. And it was a couple $1,000 bucks. So like, I'm not going to eat that. You know, I'll just go. I'll just have it done. So no regrets. I'm very happy with the way it came out. I can't recommend any other places because I only have experience with the place I went to in Istanbul. It's called Now Hair Time. I'll show you some videos from that day before I leave here, since nobody seems to have any questions. So just to recap, I did a whole video on it back then, but so here it was. Let's see, turn that off. So when I got there, they drew a new hairline for me. And that's where my hairline is. It's exactly where you see that line that the gentleman was drawing. They brought my hair back down a good 1.5 inches or so from where it had been receding. And this part took a good, I'd say 30 minutes because he kept erasing and redrawing, and he waited until it was perfect. So said these are not medical doctors. There's only one medical doctor there that I know of, and he has a very beautiful office furnished with all these cool antiques. He oversees the whole operation. Everyone else is probably on the level of a nurse or a nurse practitioner in terms of training. But like I said, they do a heck of a job. So he drew that. The shaving. This was the most traumatic part. Getting my head shaved because, oof, I hadn't had my head shaved since I got a crew cut when I was about 12 years old. So this was very traumatic for me. There was a mirror. I was in front of me. I was trying not to look at it because the first thing they did, look at that. When they shaved it there, that's, you know, what my hair might have looked like in another 20 years if I didn't do anything about it. I might have lost all that hair. Who knows? And I had the Homer Simpson because that hair on the side there and the hair in the back of your head, it's different. It's not as DHT sensitive. It doesn't have the same affinity for the binding for DHT that the crown of your head and the area around the temples, which is why they call it male pattern baldness, because it's dihydrotestosterone. It's something that it's a result of the testosterone in our bloodstream. So it's very, very common. So that was my head shaving. This was the first video I did when I got back.
This is day 3.
Last
Saturday.
I was talking in a hotel room. This was the last day we were there, and you go the day after, and they take off your bandages because your head has to stay bandaged for the first night. Then you go back and they remove the bandages for you, and then if you're leaving that day, they'll do the wash, but they typically like to wait 48 hours to wash your hair. I know there's no hair there. There is hair. It's actually the hair shafts are grafted in there. So you can see that whole pink area in the back. That's where they took all the donor hair from. So about 50% of the hair volume in the back of my head was put onto the top. Oh my God, I didn't have this plugged in the whole time. So yeah, pretty crazy. Anyway. Oof. Well, guys, sorry about that. Sorry about that technical glitch. I'm trying to do it. Doesn't look too bad. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, compared to what it was, I'm very happy. Was it painful? Good question. So the painful part of the procedure, which they don't let you film, was numbing the head. They do inject your scalp all over with lidocaine or novocaine, some sort of numbing agent, but they do have to inject it. So there was probably about 15 to 20 total injections all around the scalp. They also put in saline solution to puff up the skin to make it easier for them to do the grafting, to remove the hair in the back. But I'd say that whole process took about 20 minutes at the most. After about 20 minutes and the numbing really started setting in, I didn't feel a thing the rest of the day. So I actually just got my first haircut as far as the top. My wife had been doing the sides for me with just clippers. You know, she's not an experienced hairdresser or anything. She was doing the sides, and only about 2 weeks ago, I finally went to a barber shop where they did a good job with the scissors and they did the fade and all that stuff. So I didn't cut my hair until early February, when it was completely shaved bald anyway, until I guess that was about mid-November. So I went about 9 months without getting my hair cut. It was getting long. It was like down, if I brushed it down, it was like down to here. You know, I don't wear it like that. It's like the Muppet kind of look. But so I just got it cut a couple weeks ago. Like I said, it was, if I brushed it down, it was down to there. So, and I could probably grow enough to do a comb over in the back. I'm not going to do that. Bald is beautiful. I mean, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And I've known plenty of guys who are bald and look great. I saw what I looked like bald. I did not like it, man. I did not like it. Let me go back to that. For me, it was a very creepy look. You know, maybe I would have got used to it if I had to, but I didn't want to get used to it. I didn't want to get used to it. Yeah. Well, that's what that. Yeah. I'll go back to the shaving thing. Yeah, so here we go again with my bald head. And I was very self-conscious. I didn't want to do any videos or anything for a couple weeks, but I'm like, you know what? F it. Everyone knows. I wasn't hiding the fact that I had it done. Like some guys have done that. They don't take any pictures or videos for a couple weeks. Then they wear a hat for a while, and then, you know, they try to play it off like they never had it done. But I'm not trying to fool anybody with. If I get any cosmetic procedures, if I ever get like Botox or something, I'm an open book. I would just let you guys know. So this was at the airport before I had it done.
Okay, I'm here in Istanbul.
You can see how much higher my hairline was here than it is now. Yeah, look at that. Oof. Yeah, that hair was going, man. It was going. I don't think I would have been completely bald on top for a long time. It probably would have taken another 15, 20 years, but it was headed that way because I have 4 brothers, 1 younger and 3 older. And the 3 older ones, they have very, very little hair on the top of the head. Their hair is receded a lot. And we all had the same hair loss pattern. I could see that that's where my head was going to look like very soon. Oh, that's the hair shaving again. I don't want to see that. That's too traumatic. Yeah. And, you know, I did videos shortly after. I did short videos to show people what it looked like. Like I said, what age did you notice you were going bald? Good question. I would say probably around 40. I noticed it was starting to creep up a little bit. Until 40, I don't think I was really losing it. And it was probably genetic. It is genetic. Hair loss is genetic, but it was DHT derivative drugs, I was using a good amount of Tren from ages, I'd say like late 30s to late 40s, late 30s, yeah, a good 10 years or so. Tren was a very common item in my cycles, and Tren is notorious for hair loss. I mean, Test by itself is going to do that, and I was always using Test. So, yeah, for me, it was a little later. I've known guys. I remember I went to high school with a kid, good friend of mine named Andy. Senior year, he was 18 years old. He was already very, very thin hair here, and it was receding. And he did go bald pretty young. I mean, he was 18 then. He was about 35 or so. Yeah, I think it's different, but I want to say for most men, 35 to 40 is probably the age most guys start to notice their hair is thinning or starting to recede. Most often you'll notice it's just thinning. Like you can start seeing your scalp, and you'll see this is like it starts creeping up. You'll notice it's just getting higher and higher. It's such a gradual process that you don't, it creeps up on you. A lot of times until you see pictures or videos of yourself, you're like, oh, geez, it's kind of like weight gain. Although it's, you can gain weight a lot faster. You can lose hair, gain fat. But a lot of times you'll look at a picture and go, wow, with me, it was, my wife, I love her to death, but she's very honest with me. She would tell me, you're losing your hair. She didn't say, I find you unattractive or it bothers me. It wasn't that. She was just letting me know because, she takes care of her face. She's had Botox many times in the past. She's had fillers and lip fillers and things like that. She doesn't hesitate to do things like that that'll make her face look better. So she just wanted me to know in case I decided to do anything about it. Loss of hair is definitely a genetic trait. My grandfather still has a full head of hair. Oh, 60. I've seen guys who are 80 years old or more. It's rare, but you'll see guys who are 70, 80 years old with real bushy, full heads, thick hair. They haven't lost a bit of hair since they were kids. To me, that's just astonishing. It's almost the same as, occasionally you'll run into these guys who are in their 60s, 70s, I don't know about 80s, but they still have plenty of natural testosterone. They don't need TRT. They're still, athletic looking, muscular, sex drive, all that. I'm sure a lot of them are on, most guys in that position are on TRT, but there are some guys do keep their natural testosterone at a higher level much, much later in life than others. Oh, thank you, Thanos. Is that the rest one? Yes, Sebum did his hair transplant at the same place that I did about a month before. He went with his cousin Ian Valier, same exact place. He got it not only for free, obviously. Well, he's got millions and millions of followers, so it's not like he got it for free. It's advertising, it's marketing for them. How many people probably went there because Chris Bumstead went there? Sure, quite a few. He went with Ian Valier, his brother-in-law, Coach Greg Doucette, another huge YouTuber, pro bodybuilder guy up in Canada. He went there as well. He went there before I did. So I was very confident that this place was first class, top notch. Like I said, I'm not endorsing them because I paid full price. They gave me no discount, nothing for free, nothing like that. So I'm not here trying to campaign for them for you to go there. I'm sure there's a few really good places in Istanbul. My wife had done a little bit of research, and that's the one she picked without even knowing anything about it. She picked it before Sebum or anything. She didn't know who had gone there because she looked into it for me. Debating with myself on doing it for a few years now. Doc says, I want to keep it existing here already. I have to take meds for life after transplant. What's your take on that? So they told me, yeah, most guys do take finasteride after hair transplant to prevent hair loss, further hair loss. We met with the doctors. So before you leave, they let you in there with the doctor, and he's probably in late 50s, early 60s. He had a translator. I don't know if he even speaks English, but like I said, beautiful office. All these cool antiques. You could ask him anything you wanted. There was me and two other gentlemen. They bring groups of 3 in there. And it's basically your last chance to ask any questions of the doctor or anything about aftercare or interactions with other drugs. He is a medical doctor, whoever he is. He runs the place. And he said, for gentlemen over 50, which I was 54 at that time, I've turned 55 since, finasteride is not advised. I'm not sure of all the reasons. I know erectile dysfunction is a very, very common issue with finasteride, especially guys who are middle-aged or older. So I don't want erectile dysfunction. What I do take as far as I take minoxidil foam, which is the trade name is Rogaine, but it's minoxidil is the chemical name. I get a generic version, like in a 4-pack or a 6-pack from Costco near the pharmacy. So that's a foam. I apply that. I only put it on the crown. I don't bother with it here. On the packaging insert, they'll say to only put it on the crown, minoxidil Rogaine. I found out in their trials, in their studies, it was shown to help regrow hair in both the crown and this frontal area, the temporal area. But the results were much better for most people in the studies on that crown, on the very top of your head. So that's why they tell you to only use Rogaine on the top. They're not going to tell you to use it everywhere because it's not as effective in other areas, these other areas, as it is here. So yeah, but finasteride, a lot of bodybuilders take finasteride just to prevent hair loss anyway, because they're on all these drugs. Because bodybuilders take all these other drugs to sort of mitigate, counteract the negative side effects of the steroids and the other drugs they're taking. Very, very common. Bodybuilders take finasteride along with their steroid cycles and taking it year round. It's not a drug you take in cycles. It's an everyday drug, like an asthma medication or it's a type, any other medication that you take daily. It's just like that. Thank you, Thanos. I'm trying to give you guys close-ups. You see it's not as thick here. It's not. But considering there was no hair there a year ago, this area where it looks a little thinner, that was completely bald. My head, I had no hair there. It was gone. Kalyan, thank you for the rupees. Appreciate it. I did have a great Thanksgiving. Hope it was a good day for you, whatever day it was. I did eat too much. Trailblazer, do I think the steroid use sped up the hair loss? Yes. Yes, I do. Because I say that because, like I said, there's 5 brothers. My younger brother, Steve, is 3 years younger than me. So theoretically, if we're following the same genetic timeline, my hair loss should have been more advanced than his. But I remember at the age of 40 or so, let's say by the time I was 45, my hair was just starting to, my hair had started to go for sure. I had noticed it was starting to recede, but he's 3 years younger and his hair was already more in recession. He had less hair here than I did, and he had less hair on the crown, and he's never seen a steroid, much less used a steroid. So I still think, genetically, I think I was probably a little less prone for whatever reason. Just like, genetically, I had some more advantages with like bones, maybe bone structure and muscle insertions for bodybuilding than my 4 other brothers did. We'll never really know. A couple of them did lift weights, but they never really stuck with it long enough. But I still think, yes, the steroids. If I'm gonna blame one, I'm gonna blame Tren, because Tren seems to be notorious for hair loss, and I did use a lot of Tren. Never heavy. Well, when I say never high amounts of Tren, for me, like 500 milligrams a week was a lot, but that was a common. I would do 400 to 500 milligrams. I remember when it was at 100 milligrams per milliliter. I would do like 100 milligrams of it every other day, or 150 every other day. So I was getting, 350, 450 a week. It was a good amount. Nobody needs a gram of Tren a week. I'll tell you that. Glad I've used any drugs at 42. Yeah. Yeah, some people, you Trailblazer, you might never lose your hair. Like I said, I see older guys at the gym or just walking around. And, you notice once you start losing your hair, you start paying a lot more attention to other men's hairlines, especially, middle-aged and older guys. And you see some older guys with these full, thick, bushy heads of hair. You're like, wow, that's crazy. How does he still have all that hair? And my hair's, losing. But then you'll also see guys in their 20s losing their hair and bald spots and stuff. It's all genetic, and we're not all the same, which is not really surprising. Tried fibers or mask spray. I don't know what fibers are. If you're talking about mask spray, I did have these little cans of the actual thing it's meant to be used for is to cover up gray hair. So you spray like your gray hair or your white hair, and it makes it look brown and dark brown. You can get it in different shades. And I was putting that on the top at sometimes, but then I saw a picture of myself with it, and my skin was like shiny and brown. It looked like paint, it looked like shellac. I was like, oh, this looks worse than the bald spot. It's so obvious that I have sprayed the top of my head with this brown, fake paint job, and I stopped doing it then I got the hair transplant. Losing my hair, gaining hair on my back. Yeah, that's the most common complaint about guys is you lose it from here, but you get hair like everywhere else. Like hair starts coming out of your ears, your nose hair starts growing more, your back hair gets even worse. Like I didn't have one hair on my back until I was probably 30, 32, early 30s. And then within a few years, my back hair started growing. I remember my dad, my late father. So my memories of him are basically from ages 40, 41 to 57, because he died at 57. But I always remember him having this thick, bushy hair all over his body. His back was like just a rug, legs, arms. He was covered like head to toe, like a bear. Yeah. Rob Colasino. You're not Rob Colasino that they called the Demon, the bodybuilder from back in the day, are you, Robert? If not, you gotta Google him. My hairline's okay, my brother. Like, you don't need to go bald, but I feel better going bald. Yeah, like I said, some guys look great bald. Some guys look awesome bald. It seems like a lot of African American guys, more so than your typical white dude, looks better with a bald head. Like there's a lot of black guys, black actors, rappers, whatever. You couldn't imagine them with hair because they look so good without hair. They'd probably look a lot worse if you threw a wig on them. But who knows? Does TRT cause hair loss? No. TRT, legit TRT is just putting you into a normal testosterone level or range. So you shouldn't have any deleterious effects. The bad side effects from testosterone use come with abuse, when you're taking in far more than your body needs, because that's when it's that spillover effect and you have all these residual effects that you didn't want or need. You know, the acne, the water bloat, the hair loss that starts, things like that. What do I think about Charles Glass, Kalyan? I think he's incredibly knowledgeable about training, and not so much from a formal education standpoint. He was trained and educated as an engineer and worked as an engineer for several years before he became a coach, a trainer at Gold's Venice. And he's been training people, movie stars, top tier bodybuilders ever since. Extremely creative in switching up angles of exercises, or just gripping the handle a different way or in a different piece of the machine to target very, very specific areas of muscle groups. He's probably the best at that of anyone who knows. I've watched a lot of his videos. I've seen him train people in person. I've tried to absorb a lot of that myself, but he is the Jedi Master. I know Nick is your favorite bodybuilder currently. No, I don't really have a favorite bodybuilder. I don't. I'm a huge supporter and fan of all the guys, but I don't have a favorite. I think he can beat Martin at the Pittsburgh show. Well, he hasn't announced it. He's keeping quiet about his next show. I'm sure he wants to announce it himself. Pittsburgh would make sense for him. The Arnold is too soon, I feel. Plus, Sampson's going to be there. He's not going to beat Sampson. I don't see that happening. And Andrew Jacked, I don't know if he's going to beat Andrew Jacked. But Pittsburgh, very likely. Can he beat Martin at the Pittsburgh show? Yeah, I don't think Martin is that far ahead of where Nick Walker at his best. To say that Nick Walker at his best, like in 2022, let me show you. I'm just going to go back. I know we're going all over the place, but I had this queued up because I've been trying to get an interview with Nick now for a couple weeks. This was Nick in 2022 when he got third place at the Mr. Olympia. As far as I'm concerned, this is his best look ever, or to date, I should say. Huge, great condition, full as a house, and that's his strong point. He's got to be a freak, a conditioned freak. He's never going to have a really narrow waist. He's not going to have that exaggerated V-taper like some of these guys do have. But my goodness, the ungodly mass, those arms, the shoulders, the chest, the back. He's a huge, huge guy. Martin is not quite there. Martin has prettier shape. Martin has better quads. Overall, Nick still has overwhelming mass compared to Martin Fitzwater. Martin is a big, big dude. Nick is another level of big. He's just an all-the-way huge dude. So I would not say that Martin is necessarily going to beat Nick just because Martin got fourth at the Olympia, but Nick also got third a couple years before that. So Yeah, it'd be a very, very interesting matchup if those two if we end up seeing both of those guys at the Pittsburgh show coming up in a few months. My hair is staying. The information supporting me. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, Henry, do your research. There's so much research, so much information out there at your disposal. You can opt to do it in the USA if you feel more comfortable. It is more money. Some people won't mind paying more if they can feel more comfortable about it. They know it's going to be a medical doctor doing the procedure. They know if there's any problems, they can go back to the clinic and have them do any kind of revision or whatever. Because I'm not going back to Istanbul. There's no need. This is 10 months later. I mean, I'm coming up on a year in a couple months. I'm very, very happy with the results. I wish the top had come out as well as here, but it is what it is. But yeah, definitely do your research and before you make any decisions. No, I mean, the only procedures I need, I want a shoulder replacement. There's a type of procedure being done in Australia with what the heck's it called? Jose knows, Jose Raymond, because he told me about it. He's waiting for it to be approved in the US. It's like with micro plastic fibers or something. It's designed for more active people and younger people so that you can regain more function. With the shoulder procedures that they have now in the US, shoulder replacements, you don't really get the function back. It takes you out of pain. You're never going to be able to train. I know it's ridiculous. Why should I care that I can't press heavy dumbbells anymore? But it bothers me. I do want to get out of the pain as well. Right now, I'm not in pain because I had another cortisone shot a couple months ago. It's only going to be about another month or two before that starts really wearing off and the pain starts getting really bad again. That's the only other thing. It is also anxiety related. I mean, if you had genetics or anxiety, is chronic speed. Oh, I think stress in general, cortisol, it's a very unhealthy condition for your entire system. It speeds up all kinds of health problems that you can have. So, that's why when they say to people, relax, meditate, do yoga, things like that, you can roll your eyes. But if you're in a stressful situation all the time, if you feel stressed out and the cortisol is always flooding through you, you're always worried and, oh no, I mean, it's going to wreak havoc with your health in many, many ways. Hair loss, it used to be a joke back in the old days. These kids are making me lose my hair. And there was something, it sounded stupid, like they were just blaming your kids for stressing you out and making you lose your hair. But I'm sure there's actual medical research that proves probably more stressed people that are in high stress situations and in that emotional state most of the time in their waking hours, they probably do lose their hair more. I don't know the science behind it. I don't like that look, Trailblazer, the bald head and the bushy beard. It's so common. To me, it would be like, well, obviously you grew that beard because you can't grow any hair on your head. To me, it just looks like you're compensating for the lack of hair up there. But I don't like beards. I don't think they look great on most people. A short beard looks good on a lot of guys. Those big bushy beards, though, I don't think many people at all pull those up. They go the women who shave our backs. Yeah, I have my son do it with clippers every few months for me now, but my wife did it. Can I get Mr. Charles Glass? I didn't think about it. Probably one of the ideal person interview. Yeah, I could try. Yeah, I had him on MD interviews years ago. Charles Glass. Let me write that down. Good idea. Yeah, I mean, I was very happy with the Chad interview. It did well, got some good views. So people suggest things. My first thought is, well, who's going to watch that? Because I don't want to it's not that I'm like too good to waste my time on them. It's like, do I want to take an hour of this person's time in return for very low views? And I try to coordinate it with people that I think are going to draw and people will be interested in watching. Nick is way too blocky in the midsection. Martin has a more streamlined look. Yeah. I mean, Martin has a more streamlined look than Hadi, and Hadi beat him. It's just it's all these different factors in conjunction. The best guy with the best shape doesn't always win. The biggest guy doesn't always win. The most ripped guy doesn't always win. Guy with the best arms or legs doesn't always win. It's the best total package. To say that Nick can't beat Martin, I would never say that. For anyone who believes that Nick has no chance of beating Martin Fitzwater, no. I mean, anybody can be beaten. If Samson shows up at this Arnold for any reason, like really off, condition is really off or something like that, he'll get beat. He's not just going to win. He's not going to win just because he's Mr. Olympia. He's going to be judged against the best people on stage that day, like every pro bodybuilding show. And, if it's all about pretty shape, Chris Bumstead would be winning everything. He's got prettier shape than all these guys. Yeah, I know people always talk crap about Nick Walker's legs. I know. It's not about growing a beard and taking mine from the hair on top of your head. No. Let's see if I can find the memories from today. If I can find the memories, I'll show you. Where would that be? No, I don't even know how to find that. No, I grew a beard a couple times. I didn't like the way it looked. It's not for me. You guys can grow beards. I don't like it. Like I said, I don't like that look. To me, I just don't find that an appealing look in any guy to have a bald or balding head and a beard. It's like, to me, it immediately looks like you're compensating for not having hair up here. So, are there any drugs to reduce cortisol? Which drugs? I know there are, but let's Google it, guys. Which drugs reduce cortisol? Supplements. These are all crappy supplements. Okay, here we go. Ketoconazole is an adrenal enzyme inhibitor that can reduce cortisol production. I have shampoo for that, believe it or not, that I took for psoriasis. Metopyrine, an adrenal enzyme inhibitor, can reduce cortisol production. Mitotane, also known as lysodrin, a drug that can reduce cortisol production. Mifepristone, trade names Korlim, Mifeprex, a steroid receptor blocker that can block the effect of cortisol on tissues. Pasireotide, trade name Signifor, an injectable drug that lowers cortisol levels by reducing the amount of ACTH from a tumor. Osolodrostat, also known as Isturisa, an oral pill that can reduce cortisol production. These drugs can be used to treat Cushing syndrome, a condition in which the body has elevated cortisol levels. However, medical therapy is not a cure, may not completely improve all symptoms. Side effects of cortisol-lowering drugs. Ready? Tiredness, upset stomach, vomiting, headaches, muscle aches, high blood pressure, and low potassium. Some drugs can have more serious side effects, such as brain and nervous system side effects and liver damage. Height waist is actually small, though. Nick not only blocky, he has very wide waist. Yeah, I know a lot of you guys don't like Nick Walker's physique. I don't think it's the prettiest physique in the world. No, but, Jay Cutler didn't have a little dainty waist. To me, Nick Walker's physique is in that same mold as a Jay Cutler. Huge, Herculean, could be considered a little bit blocky because it doesn't have a little narrow waist. Neither one of them had these monstrous waists, but you know what I'm saying. God, a lot of guys don't like Nick. How many days a week do you work out currently? I usually do either 3 days on, 1 day off, or 2 days on, 1 day off, depending on what happens to be going on. Most times I do 3 days on and take a day off, but if I have things going on, it's 2. So it ends up being, like 5 or 6. So I don't really think about it in terms of a week. It's just like I typically do push-pull legs. Like yesterday was legs. Today would be pull. The day before that was push. So tomorrow I definitely won't train. I might do cardio or something like that. So I don't think about it. That's why I like push-pull legs. You could put a rest day anywhere in there and it doesn't screw up the sequence, doesn't screw up the recovery. There's no overlap. That's the main reason I love push-pull legs so much, because say you're on another split that has you do back, and then you're supposed to take a day off and do legs, and you decide to do those back to back, and you're deadlifting and squatting on consecutive days, which is awful for your lower back. It's just too much. Ways do I notice your metabolism slowed down drastically? I don't recall a certain age where like, oh no, it was a very gradual thing. It was a gradual thing. Like I haven't prepped for a contest since 2013 when I was 43, about to turn 44. It wasn't, I wouldn't say it was harder, but every time in the years since then, I'd say since my mid 40s that I've just decided I'm going to lose some weight, I'm going to get leaner for summer or whatever, I've noticed it's getting a little tougher. Like I have to go lower on my carbs, higher on my cardio, just a little bit. It's been a very gradual thing, but I'd say probably about 40, 45. Thank you, Kalyan. I'll give him a shout. Jay was a little more aesthetic compared to Nick. Yeah, I mean, Jay was 4-time Mr. Olympia. Jay had a great physique, no doubt. It just wasn't aesthetically pleasing from all angles the way that's, like the late Sean Roden. That was a beautiful, very aesthetically pleasing physique. Phil Heath had just prettier shape because he had such round, full muscle bellies, tiny little joints. It just had that comic book look to it. Jay was more squared off looking, not as round. Kind of like Dorian. Dorian was massive, but the muscles weren't really round. They were kind of more square looking. Jay had big legs. Yeah, I'm not saying Nick Walker's as good as Jay Cutler was, but there are similarities between the physiques. Jay had some nice abs. Yeah, Jay had great abs. Chris Aceto. Oh, I don't think Chris would come on. I don't think Chris would come on. I have nothing against Chris. Chris doesn't have anything personally against me. But because I worked for MD all those years, and he didn't, he really disliked Steve Fleckman and MD, and he still is a huge part of RX Muscle, which was, MD's greatest rival. We were basically at each other's throats, competing for the same views, the same viewers, the same seats at the shows in the press pit. It was ridiculous. It's true. Sean had a great physique. Hair looked great. Thank you. All right. Well, I didn't mean to go this long, guys, but I do appreciate all of you who hung out with me. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. If you're in the U.S., got plenty to eat. I ate too many desserts that night. That's for damn sure. But I'll make up for it. I'll get it back. So that's my 10-month update on my hair. I'm very happy with the results. And I would recommend Now Hair Time, even though they gave me no discounts. I got nothing for free. But I could say that's the place I went to, and I'm very happy with the results. Corsets do not shrink the midsection. No. Nothing's going to shrink your midsection. If you diet down and you get it as small as you can, you get all the fat off and suck out some water or something, that's as small as it's going to get. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate it. Have an awesome day, awesome weekend. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.